welcome to another episode of Powerful Teaching with Dr. Blades. Today, I am speaking to a great friend of mine and another amazing Teach to Empower breakout session presenter, Mr. Owen Griffith. Hey, Owen.
Hey, thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. It's been a while since you and I have seen each other and talked to each other. So how have things been going for you?
Things are going really well. I'm just really grateful to be part of your conference and part of the powerful changes that are happening in education. We are at such a critical point right now in education. I see it with the educators I work with, and I think your conference is really going to help give so many educators the tools to be there for the students and help those students to get back on track pretty quickly.
Absolutely, and that's what this is all about, for teachers, by teachers. Owen, tell everyone about your background in education and what really kind of brought you into the field and up to the point where you are now.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I have a background in psychology and initially psychology and biology. That was my major and minor in college. And initially I went into the business sector, which was interesting. And I worked for a fajita company and I was doing their training. So, you know, I had kind of all these different skills. And as I started doing their training, I realized how much I really loved that feeling of being able to empower people. And one day when I was doing the training, one of my colleagues said, you know, you would make a great teacher. And so at that time, they really needed science teachers really badly. And so with my biology background, I was able to become a 7th grade science teacher. And it was wonderful because I found not going directly into teaching really helped me because I had this business experience and I had this training experience. So I spent the first year with 7th graders and taught science and loved it, but it was so challenging. It's the most challenging thing I've done in my life, probably besides being a dad. And both are so challenging, but they also are so rewarding. Yes. And then I went on, you know, down to the 4th grade. There was a 4th grade opening and I switched schools and I moved down here to Georgia and I taught for over a decade in the 4th grade. And that's where I started using some of the social emotional learning, some of the tools, and I started using gratitude in the classroom and I started having a lot of success. Teachers at my school saw that. They started saying, you know, your students seem like they're well behaved, they're doing well academically. And so, you know, using this gratitude practice then kind of blossomed into, you know, I started a blog and I wrote a post for Edutopia that got 100,000 hits the first week. So I saw how teachers are really hungry for tools and things they can use that helps elevate the climate and the culture of their classroom. And a book publisher, they saw that and they asked me to write a book about this. And so can I show the book real quick?
Absolutely. I was going to ask you about it.
Yeah. So this book, it was great. I never thought I would write a book as a teacher, but it was one of those things that came, you know, and Rowman and Littlefield, the publisher, were just so supportive and they really helped me through that. And it took a year. And if I knew how much, you know how much work that is to write a book, I might not have done it, but I'm glad that I was naive enough and idealistic enough and I was able to do it. And that opened up a lot of doors. I was able to present at the ASCD conference. I was able to go out to the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley and work with them and the new teacher center. So all these doors started opening up. And a friend of mine worked for Western Governors University. And 4 years ago, I interviewed with them. And we at Western Governors University, can I show WGU? We are now the biggest teachers college in the whole country because we're online.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and we're the only one that can certify in all 50 states. Since we're online, we actually can certify in all 50 states. And so it's great. I started working with elementary school people who wanted to get certified in elementary school. And we just got a big grant for character education. So now I'm working using some of that gratitude and mindfulness and growth mindset and grit, all those things that I was learning about, and we're applying it now. And we're going to work with, over the next 5 years, 4,000 principals and try to give them the skills that they can take into their schools. And they'll pick 3 of their top teachers, so they don't have to do it alone, because it's really hard as just a principal trying to force everyone to do it. But part of our grant is the principal plus 3 teachers are going to go through this year-long cohort where we'll be able to give them the character education skills, online community. And I'm really excited, because if we get 4,000 different schools around the country really trying to apply character education at a time we really need it. I think right now, educators, students, school communities, we all need these skills. So that's why I'm excited when I get up every morning and I get to really try to help educators.
Oh, and you gave us so much that we need to go through. I don't think I was aware of all of this. Well, obviously, because you and I haven't spoken in a while. First of all, I don't know if I remembered that you were a science teacher, a biology major. I'm not sure I remembered that.
Yeah, maybe not, because that goes back, we kind of caught up while I was doing the presentations. And so, yeah, I'm glad that you know that, because I know your background is science.
My background is science.
Yeah.
And I remember we met at an ASCD conference.
Right.
Where you were presenting. And I don't know what it was. Well, looking back on it now, I think I do know what it was, because you and I just seemed to connect instantly. And I think it is your spirit and attitude of gratitude. And you're just a pleasant person to be around.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So when you started using gratitude in the classroom, was there any one thing in particular that put it on your radar that this is something that you should incorporate into your daily practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. I had a friend who seemed always happy, right? They always seemed happy. And I thought, okay, they probably got a pretty easy life. They're happy. But I found out that they were going through some really hard things. One of their children had cancer. So really, really deep things they were going through. And so I asked them at one point, I said, you always have a smile on your face. You're always willing to help other people. You seem so positive. And they said they were doing this in this. So this is like 20 years ago, right? When gratitude, it hadn't been out so much, but they said that they were doing a gratitude list every day. And there were a couple of rules they kept. They couldn't repeat the same thing. Every day they would do 5 gratitudes and they wouldn't repeat it. And they'd have to go deeper. They just couldn't say, thank you for my family. They'd have to say, thank you for my family because, and go deeper. And so those 2 things got me interested. And so I started doing that actually at the job I was at, that food company, before I started teaching. So it was something I had practiced personally. And it's interesting, I've had teachers come to me and say, the gratitude thing didn't work with my students. And I'll ask them, well, did you do it personally? And a lot of times when it's not working, it's because they haven't tried it. You have to be a champion of it and be able to tell your students, here's what I'm struggling with, here's what's worked, let's try this together. It's not just an activity you throw at your students. So when I found that helped me personally, I was a little bit apprehensive about applying it in the classroom because I thought people would dismiss it. Oh, here's this guy, I grew up in California and I'm here, in Georgia, and he's just a fluffy California,
Right.
But here's the great thing. I reached out and there were a couple researchers who had actually just come out with a study, Dr. Jeffrey Froh at Hofstra University and Dr. Giacomo Bono out at Cal State Dominguez Hills in California. They had actually done research and done, a control group of one classroom and then the gratitude activity in the other classroom. And they showed that it not only helps students with a better attitude towards school and life, but academically, those students went up 11 points. So that really excited me. And both of those researchers were really wonderful in guiding me and not just putting out a gratitude list, but looking for other activities, letting students guide this, because especially with teenagers, I know that if you tell them to do something, it's one thing, but if you let them lead the activity, as I have my 12-year-old son, I know this, but, writing a gratitude letter to, drawing, being creative, making a gratitude poem. One of those researchers, Dr. Jeffrey Froh, was really interesting because he admitted to me that the gratitude list is something people throw around. And he said, I have to say, as a gratitude researcher, that never worked for me. So I kept trying different things. And what he found I thought was really compelling. He found that if he put a picture of his family, his wife and his 2 boys, at strategic places, like he'd put one in his car. So every time he'd get in his car, he'd see it, or in his office. He put it right by his phone and his computer. And every time he'd see that, whether he'd get in his car or in his office, he'd think about how grateful he was for his family. So he even said a gratitude activity can be anything, but it's about doing it consistently. The research shows that if you do it a little 3 times a week, but do it consistently, that's where we see those positive changes. And it's really interesting in MRIs, they're finding the neuroplasticity. It actually does change the structure of the brain somewhat for people who keep doing it. So there are all these things that came together in my classroom. And when I was able to tell people about the research and about the things going on, other educators started getting excited about it. And the students got excited and they go tell their families. And so I would get these emails from parents, or parents would stop me in the hallway and say, my son or daughter has changed so much. And as a family, one mom said when they commute to school each day, they're so busy that she thought up every time we hit a red light, we go around the car and each one of us has to say a gratitude.
Oh,
So
wow.
I love the creative way people find to apply gratitude. It doesn't have to be something that's done a certain way, but if you find a way that works for you and you do it consistently and people see that change, it can be contagious.
Yeah, I mean, you've already got me thinking about some ways that I can incorporate more gratitude into my day each day, differently from what I'm currently doing. So I wanted to ask you, when it comes to consistency in practicing gratitude, what advice do you have for people like myself who maybe are very conscious at times of the things that we're grateful for, and then at times we kind of fall off?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll share with you what I did. I actually put in my calendar every day because I would forget, right? I'd be at the end of the day, put my head on the pillow and think, I forgot to do it again. So it wasn't until I put it in my day and had a little pop-up, do your gratitude activity. It wasn't until I had that it really helped me do it. Now, the other thing I'll tell you that I've done, and I've had other friends, colleagues, and educators do that helps too, is have a gratitude partner. You partner up with someone and you say, let's keep each other accountable. And if we find ourselves slipping into that negativity, but it's also fun too. You can send gratitude texts then, and you can think up new activities. But, my wife's a great gratitude partner because she will, tell me, sounds like you could use some gratitude today, So when we have people who lovingly hold us accountable too, I think that really helps keep that light of gratitude shining in our lives.
You're right about that, because just this morning, my husband said to me, as it relates to the conference, because I'm always putting out fires behind the scenes, as with any big event. And he said to me this morning, he said, do you realize that we have spent more time this morning talking about the things that need to be fixed and we haven't come up with any solutions for them yet? And he said, so I want our conversation to be 80% solution, 20% what's wrong. And it's kind of along those same lines. When you have someone holding you accountable for the way you think, you can definitely be more intentional and more consistent with it.
I love that example. That is so wonderful. And when we have people in our lives, they can help us and we can help them, because we all have blind spots and we all can get into those thinking traps. And we need somebody to help us with that. So that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely. Owen, we're going to have a lot of teachers, as we always do. As a consultant, you go out, you're excited, you present to groups of teachers, and they love what you're presenting. But almost every time we get the question of, but is this really going to work with my kids? Because my kids have this going on, that going on, the other thing going on. What do you say to those teachers when they feel that their students are facing so many challenges that they really can't see how they're going to get those students to be able to practice gratitude and mindfulness?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I know, especially with COVID, there are situations where, you don't want to just everyone be grateful, put on a happy face.
Right.
There are situations where we need to bring in the experts and that self-care. But, it's interesting now that there's been over a decade of research, it's interesting. The people who resist gratitude the most are sometimes the ones who benefit from it the most. So, one of the things I tell the educators is there's some great websites, and I put it on my PDF, the Greater Good Science Center. They have some really great ideas about applying mindfulness and gratitude in these challenging situations. And they also have some really well packaged tools. They've got apps, they've got, different things that we can do as educators and we can offer to our students also. So, I'd say, I think there's a way to find, something that can help. And I think, I would offer my emails out there too. So I've worked with a lot of different teachers, and, if they're willing to keep trying, be persistent and patient, they're always rewarded. So I would love to work with anybody who is having a hard time, doing this also. I'll offer my services.
Now, Owen, you showed us your book earlier. Can you tell us more about the contents of the book and especially where we can find it?
Yes. So, okay, the book, and I'll show you something that's kind of fun. This is the book that came out in 2016, and it was a top 10 bestseller for Rowman Littlefield. And this is the book. It just got translated into Spanish. A Spanish publisher picked it up. So you can get both books on Amazon. Just put in Owen M. Griffith or Gratitude, A Way of Teaching. And both books offer really good, solid activities, ideas, the research. And then I've also offered stories about colleagues who've struggled, students who've struggled. And I do get into gratitude, mindfulness, and then I have time to get into things like the use of technology. I think gratitude and mindfulness help as we're trying to use technology in a positive way with our students and with our children. We also get into growth mindset and grit and those other things that gratitude has been shown. When you practice gratitude, levels of compassion go up, empathy, resilience. So it really addresses some of the other areas of social emotional learning that I think are really hard. And we start out in the book with how to get out of the trap of complaining, the culture of complaining. Anyone who's gone into a teacher's lounge knows what it's like as teachers just go back and forth with that. So it's really interesting how we can challenge ourselves and we can challenge our colleagues and even our classrooms. One year I told the students, we're going to make this classroom a no complaint zone. And then the next day, one of my students said, Mr. Griffith, sounds like you're complaining. So even for people who do it a lot, it's easy to slip back into that. So the book is a good place to go to do that. And also, on my PDF, for anyone who comes to my session who wants to see that, I've also got a blog going on, and I have an eCourse, and this is wonderful. I did this through gratefulness.org, and I developed an eCourse that they were charging for. But over COVID, we decided we wanted to make this free for educators. So I have a link in that 5 sessions, the eCourse. It's real short. There's like 10 to 13-minute videos. Then there's activities, and it takes you through the book. So I would say that's a great way to go through the book. There's a lot of support there from other educators as they're going through the book also in the eCourse.
Well, Owen, I know I can't wait to take the class. And I already have your book in English. I need to get it in Spanish. Now that I'm in Panama, I think reading about gratitude is a great way to help me also firm up on my Spanish. So it's a win-win all the way around.
Wonderful.
And congratulations on that, having it translated. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Owen will be joining us at the Teach to Empower 2-day virtual conference. His session is on gratitude and mindfulness in the classroom. Owen, you mentioned several resources, so we are going to be sharing the links to those resources in the description of this video. But if you haven't registered for Teach to Empower yet, head on over to POWARRfulTeaching.com and grab your ticket. You do not want to miss this amazing conference. And you especially don't want to miss Owen's session on gratitude and mindfulness, because it sounds like what you're teaching us, Owen, will not only be helpful for our students, but beneficial for our own well-being and for the well-being of our family as well.
You're correct about that. Right now, self-care is needed more than ever as educators. We can't give away what we don't have. So we got to fill those batteries, keep our batteries filled, and so we can really help those students. So great point.
It must be so gratifying to see the work that you've been doing for quite a few years now really just become something that is probably in more high demand than you could have imagined it would be.
It is wonderful. And, when things line up, and you know this, and you're a great example of, sometimes when you're just doing the right thing and you really want to help those students, it just comes together, the right people at the right time. And it's been really good to see some foundations. I know the John Templeton Foundation, they got together with giving a lot of funding for the research and to develop a lot of these applications and research. So it's nice that the funding came together when the need and really was able to build up this foundation.
Well, thank you again, Owen. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. I can't wait until the conference in a couple of weeks and the
Me
live
too.
Q&A, when everyone will get an opportunity to interact with you as well.
Thank you. I can't wait either. I'm excited.
All right. Y'all, thank you for watching. Again, head over to POWARRfulTeaching.com, grab your ticket to the conference. Also, drop down in the description box, visit those resources that Owen has offered an entire course for free to get you guys started. You really can't beat that. And then you want to like this video, subscribe to the POWARRful Teaching channel, and follow POWARRful Teaching across all social media platforms. And I will see you all in the next episode of POWARRful Teaching with Dr. Blades.